Welcome, everyone, to Alzheimer Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I have Jonatha Brooke with us today as a guest. But before I give you her formal introduction and we get into our line of questioning, we always get new listeners. So I always like to tell people a little bit about Alzheimer Speaks and why we're here. Bottom line, my mother had dementia for 30 years. Changed my life, changed my career, and so I am in this space now. My goal has always been with Alzheimer's Speaks to raise everyone's voice. And so what we are is an advocacy-based company providing multiple platforms to shift our dementia care culture from crisis to comfort around the world. We're also known as a media outlet just because of all of our platforms as well. We truly believe that by joining forces and just having these everyday conversations like we're going to have today on Alzheimer's Speaks Radio, that we can get rid of the stigmas and we can raise awareness and we can give hope. Because we all need those things, especially those that are in the trenches with dementia. At our core, we also believe that collaboration is our greatest strength, and it's really our only way we're going to win this battle. And we know that that's working thanks to each and every one of you. You see, your clicks, your shares on all of our platforms, from the radio to the blog to our dementia chat videos where I interview people with dementia, and they are our experts, to our YouTube channels and all of our social media platforms on Facebook and Twitter. Every time you share those, you are pushing our content out. And again, you are pushing the voices of dementia out at all levels, from those living with the disease, family members, researchers, businesses, authors, singers, songwriters, movie directors, advocates, you name it. Everybody's voice is welcome. And in all of our spheres, we have a lot of people dealing with this disease that really haven't kind of come out of the closet yet. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. And like the rest of us, we're more comfortable when we see it being a new normal. It's a lot easier to grab. So thank you. Again, because of you, we got recognized by Dr. Oz as the #1 influencer online for Alzheimer's, by Maria Shriver as an architect of change, and just recently by Oprah Winfrey as a health hero for 2018. And again, that's not us, that's all of us working together. So thank you. I also like to mention that if you have a story to share, reach out to me. If you're thinking you might have dementia, if you are diagnosed with the disease, if you're caring for a loved one, if you're a business professional or an individual that has created a product, a service, or a tool that can help people, let me know. Again, we are always open to hearing new voices. I also want to mention that the Neurofilm Festival is coming up, and the deadline is March 2nd, and there will be a link to this this contest. It's really quite fun. The grand prize is $1,000. There's 4 different categories, and I'm not going to get into a lot more detail than that, but just go ahead and click on the link below to learn more. Again, it's just another great way to take part and let your story be known, and also help raise awareness. I want to give a shout out to some of our sponsors, the Alzheimer's Research and Prevention Foundation. It takes a really holistic approach towards the disease. It is just dear to my heart. They work a lot with meditation, exercise, what we eat, all of those natural things that we can work into our lifestyle. The American Senior Magazine, which is a wonderful magazine with big print. Don't even need to wear my glasses to read it. I love it. And they have great articles. Plus, they have some activities in there that people can utilize as well. The Call Alert Center, which is just a nice platform to be able to be set up in case your loved one or the person you're caring for would wander. It's under $15 a year, and you can have them all set up in case that crisis would occur. They work with the police, and they do a social media blitz and phone blitz that is absolutely phenomenal. And then, of course, there's WHAM, which is Women Against Alzheimer's with Maria Shriver. She also does the Move for the Minds in the summer, which she'll be announcing some new dates for that soon. And last, that I want to give a shout out to Care to Plan, which is a brand new dementia resource directory that is under construction. It's in beta launch right now. You can see it on alzheimerspeaks.com. If you go up to one of our main tabs, it says resource directory, and find more information on that, and you are able to go ahead and join that for free at this point. Once you join, it's only like $99 for a card for a year. You actually can then get a portal to have the whole resource directory on your own website, which is really super reasonable. Mayo Clinic is involved with this as content builders, and so many others. So that is my housekeeping. So now I can't wait to get to our guest today. Jonatha Brooke is such a trooper, and she is just this magnificent personality, and you're going to see that through this video. And if you're listening to just the audio, you're going to hear it in her voice. She is an acclaimed singer and songwriter with 4 major label releases. She has 9 CDs on her own label, which is called Bad Dog Records, and her voice is absolutely phenomenal. She has written for film, including Disney's Peter Pan and Tinkerbell series, TV, which has included the theme for Joss Whedon's Dollhouse, and for other artists like Katy Perry, Madeline Peru, Liz Wright, and Joe Sample. In 2014, she debuted her own one-woman musical called My Mother Has 4 Noses, and she'll get to why the title is that when we talk. But it is catchy, and you're not going to forget it, and that's the whole point. It was off Broadway at the Duke Theater, and it was the Critic's pick in the New York Times and New York Post, and it ran for 3 months. I personally saw it several times here in Minnesota at the Guthrie as well. Among other projects of note, in 2008, she worked for the acclaimed The Works, a collection of songs that she wrote after being invited into the Woody Guthrie archives by Woody's daughter, Nora. And she's just a joy, and her one-woman play is absolutely incredible. You will laugh, you will cry, and you'll be like me, wanting to come back, bringing others, because that's what I did, and everybody I brought wanted to come back and bring others. It's just absolutely fabulous, and I'm so excited that she is now currently living in Minneapolis here in Minnesota, and she's working on 2 new musicals, and she continues to record. But her play is going to be at the Jungle Theater here, and again, we will talk more about that. So welcome, Jonatha.
Well, hi, what an amazing introduction. Thank you.
Well, you're an amazing lady, and I mean, I could talk about you all day long. I am so excited for your play to be back. Even when I go out speaking, you know, I talk about your play and say, if you see this in your area, you have to go. It's just, it needs to be on everybody's to-do list, bucket list, because it will lift you. And your music is just absolutely incredible. You're so talented.
Yeah.
I don't know how. I am not talented in that fashion in any way. So, but to capture an audience and the way you move and sing and weave your story is just, it fascinates me how you are able to do what you have done, you know, with My Mother Has 4 Noses. So to start, Jonatha, I always ask people what brought you into this space. And can you just give people a little snippet about how dementia touched you?
Yeah, well, I mean, my mother, I mean, as you probably can attest to, since you had a 30-year journey with your mom, you know how experts are now saying, like, it may begin before the obvious signs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my mother was always a character. I mean, she she was a little quirky. She tended to be very emotional. She was a poet and she was a clown. She went to clown school when I was in 7th grade. So we always sort of chalked it up to weird mom. But by about 2008, 2009, there were some serious signs that this was not just, our normal trajectory. So that's when I started really, really honing in and paying attention. And it became clear, okay, I think we're going to have to call this dementia. This is probably Alzheimer's. And so I started getting closer and spending more time with her. And by the summer of 2010, she just wasn't safe where she was. And it was clear, something drastic had to happen. And so I moved her in with me. I moved her to New York City. I found a tiny apartment and somehow it became available. It was sort of all these doors kind of opened magically, thank goodness. But I found a small apartment in the building where my husband and I lived. And I moved my mom down to New York City and I started to care for her. And I, little by little realized how intense and deep of a journey it was and how beautiful and magical it was at the same time. And as I needed, I would add caregivers and find help and, reach out. And it was intense though, as anyone who's been through it knows.
Wow. That had to be so difficult in terms of coming to that conclusion, that this isn't quirky mom anymore. I know in our family, it was just one of those things where you're just in denial. You don't want to deal with it and you don't even know you're in denial. It's just, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And then also like, people are proud. They don't, my mother didn't want to be a burden. She didn't ever want to admit there might be something wrong. So by the time that we should and could and might have had the conversation about, Mom, this is different. Something's happening here that we need to talk about. We weren't able to have that conversation. So there were these very tacit, unspoken agreements that were almost electrical and chemical, where she resisted on the surface. She was very like, I'm fine. I can walk. I can do, I don't know what you're talking about. But then there would be these softenings where she was like, I just want you to stay, and it was this very clear, oh, okay, you need me, and this is going to be fine. It's still emotional, where whether it's spoken or not, there's a sort of agreement that happens of like, I think I need you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's when I packed up this SUV in Boston on my wedding anniversary, no less. And I drove my mom and all the possessions I could think of that she would need to New York City. And, there we were on my husband ran down and met us on the street, and I'm there in this SUV after this 5-hour journey with my mother. And I'm just like, happy anniversary, my love. I brought you my mother. And that's when the journey began.
Yep. Well, in that sense of humor, that sensitivity that you have just flows so beautifully and touches. I mean, people bring some Kleenex. You will laugh and you will cry, but you will be so lifted because you will feel Jonathan's journey with her mom so intimately. It's hard to really put into words how touching it is, and it's almost impossible not to move somebody in that audience, no matter how staunch they are and don't want to hear it or see it. When you combine all the emotions that you do, it's hard not to grab everybody and pull them in.
Yeah, and I think that there's a real value in kind of declassifying the information. I mean, a lot of it is, it can be very squeamish to talk about the hard stuff. You're exhausted. You're wondering if you're going to die first. You're like wishing for it to be over. All these are really horrible and very valid things that we go through as caregivers. And yet there are incredibly beautiful parts, and there can be these connections that are through music or food or the smell in the room. And I guess what I have found and what's been so rewarding for me is that people are so relieved to share and
Mm-hmm.
to hear their story. Okay, mine's a little different, but we all share in so many of the details of what this journey is like. And I think it's a relief to laugh about it, to
Mm-hmm.
cry about it together, to like have this music that gets through on some other level that you don't have to say anything, but it's like, okay, you know, you're hitting an emotional truth for me. And I think it just makes it more universal, that we can desensitize it, declassify it. It's not something we shouldn't talk about. We need to talk about it, because
Yep.
we're all going to share this somehow.
Yeah, and it really does open the door for people to have authentic conversations in a safe place. You just grab the heart and you caress it, and in some moments it's beat up and it's tattered, and then you come back and you love it again, and it's just that whole roller coaster of emotions that people go through. With your show, I call it emotional based training, which is what I do, is you get people to feel the need to change, and you give them the permission to feel, because I don't think we change the mind without changing the heart, and I don't think we can change our cultural delivery styles or projections, whatever, without truly having that authentic feeling of a true need for change inside us. When I've done the screenings for His Neighbor Phil, when I worked with the Hollywood producer on that one, they were like, what do we do, with this film? And it was all about, I don't want to see it on the big screen. I want to have these intimate sessions like you do with yours, and do the talkbacks, because that's where the conversations come from. Stories of the people, I mean, after they come to your show, are incredible. I mean, the chatter that's going on, or the people that don't even want to leave their seats, they want to stay longer because you've made them so comfortable. That is just a really rare thing, and it's so beautiful. So first and foremost, I have to thank you for being brave enough to share your story, and second, for your gift of giving in such a beautiful, beautiful way. I want to ask you a little bit more about the show, but would you mind just sharing a song with our audience, or a portion of one at least?
I would love to share a song. This is a song that this comes in right as I'm realizing, I better do something. This is serious. Right before I decide to bring Mom to New York. And it's called What Do I Know? Right front red and left hand blue, tangled up when you get through. Don't know what the hell to do. You tie me up and you tie me down. There's no way out of this dark town, and you're all painted like a clown in a permanent frown. And there's this cold breath on my collar. There's a dime and there's a dollar. But I'll make the call, I'll take the fall, I'll climb the castle wall. I'm my mother's only daughter. What do I know? Tell me, what do I know? I'm listening now. They ask me what's the real return as the rains pass by and ridges burn, and I say, well, nothing's ventured, nothing's earned. It's what I learned. 'Cause every complicated step, she'd be watching from stage left, and when I'd fall, she'd talk me through the rest. What did I know? Tell me, what did I know? I'm listening now. What do I know? Tell me, what do I know? I'm listening now.
Yay! You got me all teary.
Oh, I know. Well, I wanted to get at that sort of feeling of the coming full circle in a way, when what everything she did for me, and and now of course me too. There's this, we end up mothering our mothers, and it's a very poignant reversal, and but I wanted to honor her too in that song, to say, like, well, she was there for me, so of course I will be there for her.
Yep. Oh. Every time she gets me. And all of your songs are so powerful. I mean, they're just so powerful. And, for people in the audience who have been, I'm actually dripping. For people who are in the audience who have gone through the experience, it's almost impossible not to feel your words deeply, because it's like you said, we've all been on this journey, but so few of us know how to express it, or know anyone we can even express it to, because people who haven't been on the journey don't really always understand. They try, but it's just really difficult. And I know I had, like I said, I went several times and brought different people, and not everybody had personally experienced it. Some were professionals that deal with it, and it changed how they look at dealing with dementia too. And then I had others that just weren't touched, and they're like, I had no idea. I just had no idea. And that's such a powerful thing, to be able to just open that door in a non-threatening way, and then have it in a fun environment, go into a show. It's really brilliant, and more people need to see this. I would just love it to be full-fledged out there all the time, though I know you've got a lot of other projects, but it's just so beautiful. So
that
beautiful.
Is definitely near and dear, and I think also that my real challenge was to find the balance between, because there was so much joy and humor in our day-to-day, and Mom was really a character, so there was funny stuff happening all the time. So I do, it's not all rip your heart out, tragedy, because there was so much joy in embracing whatever the new normal was each day. And I was lucky enough to find some amazing caregivers, including my husband's sister Julie, who moved to New York to help us, and just embrace this crazy woman, my mom, and all of her vagaries and her poetic pronouncements and her drama. And she would make up plays sometimes, and we would, often we would have to sing the Cream of Wheat jingle 5-6 times a day. And How Much Is That Doggy in the Window? I mean, we've really connected on these musical touchstones for her, which, I think anyone who is dealing with dementia can tell you, like, those are some of the strongest ways to keep someone, in their world, and to join them where they're still capable of, being very present and having these things that are meaningful to them that you can connect to.
Yeah, it's music is so powerful, and there's finally more and more research coming out about that all the time. And but what I always like to tell people, it's not just for people with dementia, it's for all of us. Our emotions are tied to that. I mean, proof with my tears from the song you did, and my tears weren't really sad tears. They were really for me, it was like, what an honor that was for me to care for my mom. What a gift, so they weren't sad tears. I mean, granted, I miss her and stuff, but they really were truly I remember, going through those struggles and stuff, and we always think of giving care for somebody is is an obligation, it's a duty. But once you're in this mode and once you've accepted that this is your new normal, like you say, then you got to start really looking for those gifts, because they're just, oh my God, they're all over the place. And they look, like you said, really different from what they used to. You
For
know?
sure. For sure. And
But
then if you can kind of recalibrate to, okay, yes, you know, I had to really figure out, oh my goodness, you know, okay, my career is on hold. Like this
Mhm.
is going to be my full-time job right now. And, you know, at one point you're like, uh-oh, you know, there goes my everything. Like, and you have to really like say, okay, but wait a minute, like what else matters? You know,
Yeah.
this is my mother. This is the only mom I've got, and this is life, and this is the only life I've got. Like, of course, this is what I'm going to be doing. And so what? I can make another record whenever, you know, whenever it's time again. But
Yeah.
this is really important work.
Well, and I think through your musical too, you show that relationships aren't perfect and they're not easy all the time. And and you know, there are really struggles where there's times where you just like all of us, we just want to walk away sometimes and go, I can't do this. I'm not strong enough. I don't have it in me. And you know, it's okay to feel that way and
Yes.
and work through it, you know. It's
Yeah. And
normal.
I was very lucky that my husband was so supportive
Mhm.
and that I could take these major chunks of time away and not be earning money. I mean, I have to say, like, I was incredibly fortunate
Yep.
to have that support and a network and a little bit of um, money on the side that mom had stockpiled so that, you know, we could pay her rent and it could help with some of the caregiving. So I do not belittle. I don't know how I could have done it if I were working full time and,
Mhm.
you know, my mother's main caregiver. So I have to, that's just a daunting other part of the picture that I bow down to the people who are in the trenches and trying to juggle kids and jobs. And I mean, that's something that is beyond saintly.
Yeah, and there's many, many, you know, probably hundreds of thousands of families out there,
Yeah.
exactly in that situation, and that's, you know, why we need the research. And it's, you know, it's sad that like Pfizer has pulled out of the game now, and but even more so, we need the social support. We need to be able to have these conversations. People need to see, you know, your musical, to open that door and to frame it in a different light. What would you really like people to learn and see and hear when they come to you? What was, you know, when you started this whole thing, what were you thinking? Or was it just one of those things you just wrote it and didn't really know where it was going?
I really didn't know where it was going. I just knew that it was bigger than my next record. I knew that it had to be theater. There had to be a connection in the storytelling as well as just the 10 songs that I had written that related to our 2-year journey. And I think what I most wanted was to tell a love story, you know, to really get at unconditional love and the fact that that can top anything. You know, if you
Mhm.
can just get back to that electrical current of love between two people, you can survive anything. And I also wanted to again sort of desensitize the tough stuff and revel in the goofy, crazy, funny stuff, because
Mhm.
if you can't do that, then you're totally sunk. So, I mean, even anyone can tell you this probably has happened to them, but like as things were happening with mom, in my mind, I'm thinking like, this can't be, this is just can't be. Like even as she was actively dying, crazy stuff was going on around her. Like caregivers were going into like religious fits of like speaking in tongues, and it was something that I wasn't familiar with before. But I was trying to keep the scene like really, really quiet for Mom, because it was, you know, it was time, and hospice was there helping us, and it was this amazing, sacred, you know, quiet thing. And then one of the caregivers just started convulsing and frothing at the mouth. And, you know, in my head, I'm thinking like, wow, this is great material, I guess. I gotta put this in the play. So I guess I was just sort of, I wanted to get at like, this crazy stuff happens, and it's, you have to laugh, and you have to sort of put it in this, like, these things do coexist, create, you know, funny, and like, oh my God, she's really dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be able to like put those things in the same sentence almost, so that anyone else who had been in those situations would be like, okay, I'm not crazy. I mean, I know this was happening, but it was kind of funny and weird too. And is that okay?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that was a big part of like, I just wanted to get it all out there, all the gushy, funny, tragic, weird, ugly stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there's really no topic that you don't cover in this thing. I mean, because it's, you know, 24/7 kind of role of what's going on, and you move so beautifully on stage too. I mean, your stage presence is just unbelievable. You just kind of glide from one thing to a next, and as you're telling the story, I mean, you have this ability to just draw people so close, like you're the only person in the theater that you're talking to. It's just, it's very intimate, even though it can be, you know, a large theater, you know, packed full of people. You just feel like no one else is around but you. I mean, because it's this draw that you have. It's just a really magical gift that you have.
I started out, it's funny, I started out as a modern dancer. So I danced professionally until I was 30. I mean, I was trying to juggle the music and the dancing, and then I got this record deal. So the dance kind of fell by the wayside. And I had always wondered, like, is there some way that element of, you know, who I am, it's part of my persona. I mean, I was trained since I was 6 as a ballerina. And I always wondered if that would somehow I could incorporate it, or it would become a part of something. And I think, you know, in very subtle ways, obviously I'm not doing grand jetés across the stage, but in very subtle ways, that training does inform the way I move on stage. And because I get to wear this Britney Spears microphone, so I'm not trapped behind, you know, like normally when I play a concert, I'm sort of stuck in the middle behind a microphone stand. I have this fancy pants microphone for my play, so I get to move, and I'm much freer with my physicality, and that sort of feels like an amazing gift to have that freedom, but also to feel like that training comes through in very subtle ways. But there are just even small movements where it feels almost like, oh, there's a little choreography to that thing that amplifies the emotion of what just happened.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, because you know, your nonverbals, they're so easily read. You know, if you're happy or excited or frustrated or sad or exhausted, I mean, it comes through in your movement as well as your song and your voice. You've just done just an absolutely incredible job. It truly is magical to be part of watching it, and then to be able to be part of the talkback. And I don't know if you do that with all shows or not, but you know, if there's a formal talkback or not, I know people are still talking. They're still talking.
Yeah, I think there will at the Jungle. I think we're going to have pretty much every night we'll have some kind of talkback. So
cool.
I look forward to them. I really, you know, it feels like this incredible release for me and for the audience as well.
Yeah. What I found, and I don't know if you found this, but when I do the talk back with his neighbor Phil, a lot of times I get people, and you know, because the old school is always, we'll have a panel of experts to talk to the audience, but what I've found is they want someone to facilitate their own conversation, because they have to download, because like after the film I do, people can't even sometimes talk for 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, they are just emotionally just still spinning,
Yeah.
in what they experienced and stuff. And so, I find that I tell a little bit of my story to show my vulnerability, and then all of a sudden they just start talking, and they're supporting one another, perfect strangers,
Yeah.
and they're going up to him after the show and go and starting conversations and sometimes friendships. I mean, it's amazing. So I don't know, with your talkbacks, what have you found works best? Do you do the professional, or do you really want to elicit the audience feedback?
Well, often we'll bring in somebody who's, an authority on neurology, or a palliative care expert, or someone from hospice, or someone like you who's, experienced in the field. And I will start with questions to the guest,
Mm-hmm.
so that no one's on the spot. If
Mm-hmm.
they're still sort of recovering and like a little bit raw, and it's easier to sort of just get it going, and so there's a normal conversation with us up
Mm-hmm.
here, and then then people start to loosen, and it's the spotlight's not on them just to like all of a sudden come up with a question or a comment or something, and they can slowly emerge from whatever they're feeling. And there was one time, the very first reading I ever did of the show was in Pittsburgh. And it was only about 6 months after Mom had died. And my friend Tracy had put me into her new play festival. And I wrote it, I was just had this deadline, and I was grieving, I was writing, and I was playing. And I just was like, all right, well, here we go, Mom. I guess we got to tell this story. So I performed it. And I remember I had never acted before. So I don't think I've ever been more terrified. I could barely breathe. And there was this very amazing actress who was in another play in the festival, sitting right dead center. And the whole time I was thinking, oh my God, she's so, so, so good. And I'm so, so, so new at this. And I just hope I don't disappoint her. And I hope she gets it. And by the 15 minutes in, she started crying, and she didn't stop and then through the whole talkback, she just kept crying and crying. And it was just this incredible cathartic thing for both her and me. And we had this great conversation and she, the next night she brought back her daughter, her husband, her entire family. And it was this confirmation and amazing like validation of like, all right, I think I'm doing something right, because tears are usually a sign that I've hit an emotional pocket of truth.
Yep.
So, often there will be people that can't bring themselves to say anything except thank you at the end. And you allowed me to access this thing that was stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And now I feel like I can give this feeling a voice. I can move through this. It's there. I know it's still going to be sad, but I can share it.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of being able to acknowledge it and to share it. So many people hide that. They think that they're not supposed to share those emotions. They're not even supposed to have those emotions.
Yeah.
And to get in a room where everyone is feeling the same, and you're just that feeling of isolation that I think hits pretty much everybody who's, if you're diagnosed or if you're caring for somebody with dementia, that isolation, it grabs you and it ties you up. And like you said, it's so freeing to think, oh my gosh, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
I'm not alone. And for the conversations to be had with perfect strangers, and the vulnerability that people show, and yet the comfort that they get out of it, most people can't even imagine something like that occurring. But it is so beautiful, and it's so powerful. And like you said, that one woman, the next night she was back with more people, because it's like you're kind of like a Lay's potato chip. I can't just have one.
And it's funny because her daughter had the same reaction. The daughter was almost more inconsolable than the mom, and it was so it was so beautiful. I mean, it sounds kind of weird, but it was so beautiful that they just let it go. You know, they let all this stuff that had been building up. I think it was the grandma that was suffering from dementia, and they were just ready. You know, they were just ready to share it and to let it go and to realize they were, you know, they were not alone.
And that they're human. Yeah, and to be able to do that again in public. So many people can't do that even in private. That just creates the safe space you've created to have these conversations and to let these feelings bubble up, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly, and say, you know what, you have all these feelings in all other areas of your life too.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, they just don't come wrapped in dementia, you know.
Right.
So
Exactly.
so we have to change how we look at our emotions so that we can maintain our mental health. I mean, my gosh, this stuff can crack us if we let it, if we keep pushing it down and hitting it and ignoring it. It's
Yeah, and I think
healthy to feel.
in general, it's a commentary on like really trying to be open to one another, you know, and I think it could help just the discourse in general these days. I mean, you know, the nation is so riven and fraught and antagonistic and vitriolic right now, and just stripping it down to like, wait a minute, okay, these are all human things. We're all humans. Like,
Yeah.
how can we get at like, I'm feeling fragile, I'm feeling alone, I'm feeling vulnerable, I don't get you as a human. We need to sort of tone it down and like, again, strip away to like, okay, what's really true? Like, where's the love at the bottom of any of this? Where can we find love? And I think that's just sort of a general, it sounds kind of naive and cliche, but I just keep trying to come back to, okay, like, where can I find love in this story? Where's
Yeah, and there's so many different types of love, so many different levels of unconditional love. I mean, I always thought there was like unconditional love. It was its category and it fit in this box. And then through the journey with my mom, I'm like, oh, there's many different levels of unconditional love that I didn't have a clue even existed. And to me, it was almost like a spiritual experience because you get connected on such a unique level that is in some ways so slight. You know, it kind of reminds me of a spider web of just, you know, one little spew. It's so slight, but yet it's so strong and flexible and hardy, and protective. It's amazing. You know, it's just amazing.
Yeah, those little tiny gifts that let filter through the crevices.
Yeah, yeah. You know, some people, and I probably should have asked this earlier, will probably wonder what a musical play is. Can you kind of just, you know, define that for them? I've kind of got us all over the board here.
Well, I guess it's kind of what became of my story. I as a musician, I've been touring and making records for about 25 years. So something that I've become more comfortable with and become known for is my storytelling. And often between songs, I'll tell you a story, or I'll try to create a funny anecdote about what happened today on the bus, or how this song came to exist. And it just sort of, when I was working on the idea for telling my story about me and my mom, I just thought, all right, well, I guess this can be kind of an extension of that. So for me, a musical play is, well, I'm going to tell you this story, and then I'm going to be my mom, and I'm going to be all these other characters. But then when I'm telling you more about me, I find it more compelling to go into song. So often, you know, like when I'm telling the story about right before I go into the song I played you, I'm telling you that, you know, I'm terrified. My mom is vulnerable. I don't know what to do. I call my husband, and we decide we're gonna move her to New York. And then I sing that song, and in a way, it's a more elliptical, poetic way for me to tell you how I'm feeling. And for me, that's always been why I write songs. I don't want to beat you over the head with, oh my God, I'm so scared, I have to move my mom in with me. I want to tell you I want to tell you some poetry. I want to sing it in a beautiful way that's more compelling and more emotionally sort of satisfying to me, harmonically, lyrically, melodically. So to me, a musical play is just combining the storytelling with more poetic songwriting that will weave in and out of the story and give you a little more insight into the Jonatha character, if you will,
Mhm.
in the trajectory.
Yeah. Now, in the play too, you played different musical instruments at time, which I just found fascinating too, because I thought that just added so much. The one instrument, was it the calyptico? Was that what it's
Oh, the
called?
kalimba. Yeah.
Kalimba. I had never heard that or seen that, and I was just fascinated by that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful little instrument. I think they originated in Africa. They're little, basically thumb pianos. They're
Hmm.
little metal tines attached to a hollow piece of wood. And it's weird because early in my career, I used to play a kalimba, and then it got lost somewhere in one of my moves along the way. And I only picked it up again when I was, in the middle of caring for mom, and I was on this songwriting retreat that was like one of the only times I got away. I
Hmm.
went to the songwriting retreat, and there was this kalimba at the studio, and I wrote this song, like it just sort of descended from the heavens, this song it's now pretty central to the play. And I had to I had to beg the guy at the studio to sell me the kalimba. He ended up loaning it to me indefinitely. So he's been very lovely about letting me have the kalimba for now.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a beautiful instrument. And it's kind of it's kind of almost heavenly. It reminds me almost of a harp in some
Mm,
fashion. And I'm not real musical, so I'm probably screwing this all up. But
yeah.
it's just so rich and beautiful on this whole different level, and it just kind of sweeps you away. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's very, very, very
I
neat.
like to be, I'm conscious when I'm creating a record or now this play, I'm very conscious of just sonically wanting to change things up
Hmm.
so that not every song is in the same key or with the same instrument. So, I have two different guitars on stage that are tuned a little differently, and they're in different keys. And then I play the piano on a few songs. And then the kalimba is this very, very different place that you go to emotionally and musically.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm conscious of really wanting there to be a variety of sound and sonic landscape and keys and textures, and just to sort of keep the ear engaged and
Hmm.
to keep it complex. I love complexity and dissonance and telling things in elliptical ways.
I think I was in some kind of shock. I tried to keep it together, but one night I couldn't sleep, and I started playing this little kalimba I found in the studio. A song came out. More tears. I was really fragile. And I thought I'd been so brave. I thought every other rescue had prepared me. But there I was, midnight, Malibu, this mournful little kalimba ripping my armor to shreds. And I realized, for all my bravado, I wasn't ready. I was not ready for my mother to die. And I really did love her. I don't know your name, and I can't see your face, but I know you're coming. And I can hear you whisper. I can hear you call. And I know you're coming, but I'm not ready anymore. I thought I was, but there's the door. I'm not ready like before. So give me just a little more time. And please don't come today. Tomorrow's not good either. 'Cause I know it'll mean forever. I'm not ready anymore. I thought I was, but there's a door. I'm not ready like before. So give me just a little more time. And please don't come today. Tomorrow's not good either.
Did you do because I can't remember, did you do something with a drum too in it?
No, I do a little bit of sort of dancing when I'm, when I'm kind of being my mom singing the cream of wheat jingle, or, how much is that dog in the window? But that's a good idea though. I should bring a drum on sometime.
For some reason I was thinking that you had a little drum, but
Sometimes when I play the guitar, I'm a little spastic, so it does sound like I'm playing the bongos at the same time as I'm playing the guitar, because I'm hitting the soundboard.
oh, you know what? I bet that's what I'm thinking, because I do remember that. I'm like, God, I remember that. Boom, boom. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. But again, it's just all those different tones that you bring together, and then they just all meld together so nicely, and you kind of just slide across the stage and weave these stories in, and you pull us in on so many different levels. You're brilliant. You're absolutely brilliant. It's
Thank you. Well, I have to thank Mom.
Yeah. Well, she would be very, very proud of this play and all that you've accomplished. Jonatha, is there anything else you'd like to tell people about you? You have just such a vast repertoire of what you do, and I'd love to give you that opportunity to tell people a little bit more of yourself if you want to share.
I guess most importantly, I just feel very lucky. I love my job. I love what I do. I love performing and singing and writing, and I've started teaching songwriting more and more, which is kind of an exciting new avenue for me. I don't know what else to say, except I hope to keep building my audience and keep making new music and keep challenging myself. I think that my biggest quest has been not to repeat myself. Mm-hmm. So, the play certainly was a huge stretch and a big adventure for me. So I'm kind of wondering what the next big scary thing is going to be. 'Cause who knows? It could be like alpine skiing or.
So do you ever go out and do speaking, like keynotes, or, at conferences, do this play at all, or?
I have done a couple of, I've made sort of shorter condensed
Mhm.
versions of like a 30-minute, elevator version of
Uh-huh.
the play. I've done that a couple times for like caregiver organizations. I did one in New York for this really cool caregiving organization. I haven't done a lot of it, but I have, and I always incorporate a little section of the show into my live concerts. So I will
Mhm.
do, 2 or 3 songs from My Mother Has 4 Noses, and I'll incorporate some of the storytelling into that little section of the show. And it always just, people are like, oh my gosh, that, what was that?
Mhm.
So it's definitely just, it's become a part of who I am now. And I think the fact that I've become more and more comfortable as a storyteller, and a little bit of, I wouldn't call myself an actor, but more comfortable acting,
Mhm.
it has just brought a whole different element to my concert
Uh-huh.
touring career.
Okay.
And I love that. And I think I just want to keep expanding on that and see where it goes.
Oh, cool. Cool. So now you're going to be at the Jungle Theater. February 10th is the opening through March 4th, and that is in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Jungle Theater, if you want to call them, 612-822-7063, 612-822-7063, and they're at 2951 Lindale Avenue South, or you can always go to jungletheater.com to purchase your tickets directly. You can also get more information on the play if you go to the number 4 and then noses.org, 4noses.org. And then Jonatha is on Facebook, so you can find her there just under Jonatha Brooke. And or you can always go to her general website, jonathabrooke.com. I have all those links all over the place on the radio platform, on the blog, etc. But I would really encourage people to go see this play. If you're out of state, it might just be a fun weekend to come into town and check it out. Probably just avoid Super Bowl weekend here in Minnesota.
Oh, the other thing that is always interesting, sometimes fans will contact me through the office and they'll say, I think I might be a little too raw to come see this. I think I'm too close to it, or
Mhm.
my mother just passed, or I'm in the middle of this. I just don't think I can take it. And of course I say, well, whatever you feel is best
Mhm.
for you. But I say, it just might be the thing you need. And the people who actually come, who are terrified that it's too soon or too much, are always so glad they did. If that helps anybody who's on the fence or scared that it might be too raw or too emotional, I would encourage you to take a chance and just come share in the evening.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that because, again, if you cry, it's okay. You're not going to be alone, and you will cry. You will cry from some grief that touches you, but you will cry from laughing so hard too. I mean, she evens it out, let me tell you. And it's just, it feels so good when you can really truly be your authentic self
Yeah.
and release those feelings. And I don't think we do it enough. And I think
Yeah.
that's one of the almost shocks to the system for people, is because we're so used to stuffing it. And yeah, you might be tired afterwards. You'll be really excited after the show because everyone's just jabbering. I mean, they're just like, "Do you and that scene, and what about that scene?" And these conversations, and they're all talking about who they have to bring to next, who else needs to see this, and how wonderful it'll be. And then afterwards, you'll probably crash a little bit, but it's a good crash. It's a it's almost like crashing with a big somebody cuddling with you, you know. You've just got this big hug, and it's you just don't, you know, you're not alone anymore. And as much as you may feel like, well, because there's a lot of people out there that don't think they're isolated, but then they'll see something like this or something like the film that I do, and they're like, they start talking about it, about how isolated they were and how alone, and they didn't even realize it had happened to them. They just accepted it as their new normal. And it
Yeah.
really wasn't in the equation, because when you're giving care to somebody else, we don't look inward. We're always projecting, what can we do out there? And we're not projecting, what do we need to do in here for our own heads and our own hearts and our own bodies. And yeah, it's just a magnificent piece. So thrilled you're in Minnesota and going to be at the Jungle Theater, and encourage everybody to come out. And again, Minneapolis has tons of things to do, so really it's a great place to just go for a little weekend retreat. There's all kinds of things to participate in, even in the dead of winter here. Let me tell you.
I know, what a great town. I mean, I've only been here a year, but I am loving it. I'm so happy I moved.
And then this year with the Super Bowl, there's going to be so many extra things that are happening, concert-wise and theater-wise and ice castle-wise. I mean, we've got a couple different ice castles going up that are going to be, they've always done a marvelous job, but they all are going to have an extra oomph this year.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Again, please share this and go to the Jungle Theater and get your tickets. You're not going to want to miss this show. You can also, you know, contact Jonatha Brooke directly by going to her website. Again, all the links are right there for you. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.
Thanks, Lori. Bye.
Thank you.